Kikuyus never used to do doggy style. They never used to do doggy style. And it's written, in fact, when a young man was getting married, or a young woman was getting married, unakalishwa na baba yako. And it's written so well in the Southern Kikuyu. It's written if you even
so imeandikwa na Kikuyu, si ndio? So imeandikwa gui.
No, doctor. This title ya gui. But that's the
Wadau, I dare submit that there's something special about vibes with Wairimu Mukuru.
Mimi nikiweza pata tu kukaa akona nini pale Tigoni, akona mashamba pale Tigoni, mimi naenda. So long as tu nitakuwa na tu project tu wangu vizuri. Na aseme hata
guka ni for story sake ama ni guka.
Guka. Juhana mambo mob. Hutashinda ukiambiwa ati fanya hii style, fanya hivi, leta mwenzako mfanye hivi. Uka hana hizo mambo. And then utakupea story.
Kwanza tuingie culture.
Not everything your ancestors did was right. But there are some very good things that they were doing. And I want you to learn about the bad and the good, and I want you to take the good.
Na tupeane disclaimer pia because there are very, very strong opinions on this episode about interracial dating.
People would always be like, mimi nikikuwa mkubwa nitakuwa bibi ya mzungu.
If you are to find a white guy who you're genuinely interested in and they sweep you off your feet naturally.
Mimi ni Dr. Oma, no.
Of course, hatuwezi kosa kuongelea do.
So 80% are widows and the story is the same. Like the old man, the man of the house, once they have outlived their usefulness, you're gotten rid of. There could be an element of something that happened that can explain this phenomenon if it exists.
Killing men.
Yes.
But to a certain level, I'm curious about superstitions.
Naona hiyo kitu ya ku poke
the bone. Yes.
Number one, you poke it so that ukiweka hapo grass can grow for your animals to eat.
That's one explanation.
Yes, that's one explanation. The other one is that when you do that...
I'm your host, Dr. Kingori, and here's another reason to stay subscribed to our channel. Kama how just subscribe, this right here is another reason to hit subscribe and turn on the notifications bell.
One of our team members, naitwa Martin. Martin Mwangi, very resourceful. Tulikuwa tuna debate na yeye and he was like, ati Mzee Jomo Kenyatta begged the people of Mount Kenya that mzungu anaenda. Mzungu anaenda. And this before we dive into African spirituality. Mzungu anaenda na we need to transfer these lands to African people. Please buy these pieces of land. Because they needed to transfer the titles so that the Queen could compensate the settlers when they go back to England. Nati people refused.
Because why are you buying something that is yours?
So it's true. So they could have bought the pieces of land.
Okay, I've never read that, so I don't know. But my question is, in terms of what Mwangi told you, why would you buy something that is yours, that was yours, and then it was taken away for free by the very people now who are selling to you this land? Umeona, it makes sense. So mtu akuje, you have land, Dr. Kingori. Mtu akuje achukue shamba yako. And then you fight for that shamba. You get independence. Uyo mtu hata hakununua shamba. Let me tell you, you see everybody, many Kenyan communities, you see we used to migrate. We migrated here into Kenya. What I know is that many of us hatuku kuja ati tukachukua mashamba hivi. We used to buy the land. Like for us, we bought land from the Dorobos and the Yadi through goats. So, awa wamekuja wakachukua land yako. And then, after kuifaitia, waambiwa ununue tena. Then what were you fighting for?
Now I feel ashamed of myself because I didn't think about that perspective. Mimi nilikuwa naangalia, like right now, we buy land. We buy land, so probably nilifeel, sikuangalia that angle, how did these settlers acquire the land in the first place?
Yeah, they took it for free.
But I'm told it was a very throwaway price, like everyone could afford, but they just didn't want. Notwithstanding, your argument notwithstanding, assuming this was the only way to transfer it back to the people.
Was it the only way though? And remember, I've never read about that, but was it the only way though? Could they have not been just given their land remember, even there's okay, just ask Awiko.
No, I'm curious. Like in an ideal situation, if the white settlers left,
yes,
what do you think is the ideal situation for people to get back their land?
Everybody, wherever you are, wangerudishwa. Remember, people were being taken away from their communities, from their pieces of land, wanapelekwa places zinaitwa Isagi. Those Isagis, they were horrible, deplorable conditions of living. So what would have happened? Si walitolewa, warudishwe tu. This town, Westlands, Kilimani, Gara, we know the families that owned those pieces of land to this day. To this day. I have even done a video of that on TikTok.
Then why are you giving us stories half-half? Twende nayo pole pole.
So like even places like
these
Kitaburo,
towns were owned by
Westlands, they were owned by
the
Kikuyus.
whole of Westlands.
Yes. It
family.
was owned by Kikuyus, yes.
The whole of Ngara.
Yes. There was a person called Waiyaki. He
Wahinga.
was like, yes, Waiyaki Wahinga. He owned Lavington. He owned starting from Lower Kabete, going na uko Lavi, Westlands.
He owned all of that.
Yes. Wangerudishwa tu. Doesn't hard kuwarudisha. But now, let me not talk about our first president.
No, just
He did try, because when KCA was created, he did go abroad. Alichangiwa akaenda abroad.
KCA?
Kikuyu Central Association.
Okay.
Alichangiwa akaenda kujaribu kupigania. But in the midst of that, he married a pink woman, which was not even ideal.
You're wearing a pink t-shirt. What's your beef with pink? Nini? Okay.
Yeah.
Endelea.
So like, he did try, but you see, you have to do things the right way. You cannot tell the very owners of the land that wanunue tena their land back. The land, kwani wananunua land mara mbili. Walikuja huku Kenya when we were migrating into Kenya. At that time it wasn't called Kenya, but when we were migrating here, we found the Athi and the Dorobo. We did the right thing. We bought land from them. Then now, this pink man comes and says, no, get out, this is my land. And if you read that history, there's a book called, it's written by Maina Kenyate, the Kenyan history of resistance. You will see how they tried fighting. They even gathered the Young Kavirondo Association, kule Nyanza. They got the Taita Hills Association, the Ukambani, Oma, Members Association. So they tried to even bring Kenyans as a whole so that they could be able to fight for what is theirs. And then after all that, waambiwe like, sasa nunueni back your land. Hata kama it was a throwaway price, these guys were tired.
Good point.
Yeah.
But umesema vitu mingi sana.
Yeah.
Kenyatta married a pink woman. A pink woman is what we people wa kawaida call white woman. Sindio?
Yeah.
So now he marries a white woman.
Yeah.
Do you think, what do you think about this as a concept? Does it go against the fundamentals of what he was fighting against?
Yeah, because how you gonna go marry a pink woman and you're fighting for your people to be liberated by these very same people you're falling in love with?
Isn't that like the way Azimio has given people to government?
Yeah.
To netwaji, like donating.
That removes the authenticity of what you're fighting for. When Azimio did that, people started. Did you notice that people started complaining a lot?
It was ODM actually.
Yes.
But did he ever go public with the white lady he married?
Wadau, see I tell you something small about Tap Send kabla tuendelee na story. Exactly. So Tap Send is a safe and super fast money remittance application that comes with great exchange rates. Alafu Tap Send has multiple payment options. You can send directly to bank accounts and you can also send directly to mobile money transfer platforms. Yay! Uko Colorado? Niweke kwa M-Pesa. Tap Send has got you covered. And here's more good vibes. There are no hidden charges, no transfer fees. That means the same exact amount of money you see in the app is the same amount of money that the recipient will receive. Alafu good vibes on top of the good vibes. you get a $30 bonus credit on your first send using Send if you use our code Wicked Edition. Consider yourself plugged.
Did he ever go public with the white lady he married?
She used to come, there are even pictures.
And do you think he would have maintained the national image? Would that have been his first wife if Kenya's first lady was a white woman?
Hey, hapana. He wouldn't have. I don't even think kungeenda like that image ingeharibiwa kabisa. Yeah.
So that woman,
These
they
are the
probably
very
loved
people-
each other. They probably loved each other, but circumstances.
I don't think in fact, I don't think that any black man who marries a pink woman, and I know I'll get into trouble for this, but I think it's usually just you've always viewed these people as up there, and so you want to feel how it feels like to be with that woman, and just be like, yes, I've got nimeoa mzungu.
As in, you see pink, I say white. It's like you're pushing the agenda. Men are colorblind. I don't know where this pink comes from.
The reality is every human being is melanated, and it is a huge lie that we were lied to, that kuna watu white ni color. I don't know if the cameras are going to be picked, but we all know white.
So that's fine.
Yeah.
So now, you don't think a man who marries a white woman is marries them out of love?
Nah.
Per se.
You
It's
remember
not like
the
you're feeling
conversation
bad.
we
They
were
are finishing
having?
us for you. It's we are
Sorry?
few actually.
Yeah.
It's not like you're feeling bad. The
Yeah.
white ladies are finishing
No,
black men.
no. I even wouldn't admire a black man who would like to marry a pink woman.
Why? Love is blind.
It's like every single time I see a woman with a pink man, I always feel like she's being there's some stuff she's going. Yes, she will be like, I feel like number one, she's chosen that pink man to be financially stable, and I also usually feel like, sijui why, but I feel like kuna venye huwa anapitishwa mambo, especially sexually. I feel like she's usually fetishized. You get? That's how I usually feel. And maybe it's my own prejudice. But
You
and
don't think-
it's not like that even with Asian women.
Nah.
I don't get, like, you see, if you have an Asian woman, I won't feel that. If you have let's say if a man marries an Asian woman or a woman marries an Asian man and they're black, me, I don't get that.
You have a specific. Also,
Yes.
this is your beef is. Is it because you've read so many Mau Mau books and
Yeah.
then ukona yo?
It's not even just Mau Mau books. It's seeing what the black man has undergone under the hands of the pink man. You know,
But it is not this pink man.
Yes.
That alikuwa nakata our grandfathers
Yes,
mayai.
yes.
As in, these are their grandfathers.
Yes.
So what do they have to do with that?
You do understand inheritance. We inherit, as human beings, like you are your ancestors, right? That is even an African concept. Our DNA, it just shows that we are our ancestors. So even right now, if the circumstances were to change, and like, let's say sasa somebody to a radical person, it just takes one person with a different mind. Aseme ati, okay, we are going to enslave Africans again. You think ati many of the very people who had the very people who had enslaved us, they would be like, no, we stopped that. No, many of them would do the same thing. So I feel like, if, let's say, and everybody says, but I am not, it's my ancestors who did this. Well, then, at this point, Europe is so up there, and America. And they have so much, they have money, but say Europe is starting to lose. But at the end of the day, mbona wasiturudishie hizo pesa zenye walichukua Africa kujijenga nayo, if they are better people, so that now we can also build ourselves.
Okay. Would you say, what would you say to the person who feels that your stand on, say for this example, for purposes of this argument, let me say race, okay, is like the direct opposite of the white supremacists.
Yes.
The people who feel that black people are less, black people don't deserve anything. They're not even human, right?
Yeah.
Like, would you agree with that sentiment? Because
Yeah.
you're so African, which
Yes.
is good. Like,
Yeah.
hey, when you Africa,
Yeah.
damu, you
Yes.
understand?
Yeah.
Would you say that, basi, that's nature for us? Like, some people have to do, like, in an ideal setting, you
Ebu
revenge for
nikuulize
the
Dr.
Mau Mau.
Kingori. You see, like, just take a look at NFL players in America.
Yes.
And they marry, the ones who marry pink women. If they weren't, and we have had this conversation, so these guys, they get money and they get so much money. But do they marry the top tier of the pink women? Do they usually marry the top tier of the pink women when you look at it?
That's an interesting question.
No,
I'll just
they
say, what
marry
is
the-
top tier women?
Like, when you wako, do they usually get the women who are like the natural blondes, blue-eyed, the ones with money? Do the NFL players marry those kind of women, or do they get the pink women who are not necessarily
Bottom of the barrel.
Yes,
But sasa
who
tunaona-
even do like inaitwa aje this porn site. They go for
OnlyFans.
only fan models, so long as they are pink. And that's why
So, okay, I think this classification, most people would agree with you.
Yeah.
Because what is this classification of women? Show me, tell me the black women version of what you've just described. The top
there's
tier.
no, that's the thing, because of racism and what black women and what like black people have been put as, we are not even allowed to have like the okay, maybe like, okay, like today, let's say if we give an example in Kenya, perhaps it would, no, hata nikisema light skinned women who anafanya OnlyFans. So hatunanga hiyo, but
Let's break it down.
Uh-huh.
What's your definition of a high value woman?
okay, a high value woman is somebody who's really smart, somebody at least who has their own career, somebody who's working, somebody who's just mwenye anaweza ongelelea various matters, somebody who's just smart. Yes, mtu tu mzuri, mtu tu
tutarudi hapo kwa white because nataka tuingie hapo kwa African and I'm very curious kama
Yeah.
I'm very curious to know kama you go to church.
Yeah, no.
We'll get
that's-
into that.
yeah.
You say smart woman has a career, right?
Yeah.
Our guest,
And they don't even have to have a career. You know, a high value woman anaweza kuwa hata, yes, she's a stay at home mom, but kuna venye tu amejieka, like ni mtu tu unaonanga like she is admirable. Do you know there are some even stay at home wives who are very admirable by the way they carry themselves?
100%. So I'll throw something to you
Yeah.
that was said by a guest on a previous episode,
Yeah.
Dr. Mwaka,
Yeah.
and I shared in that sentiment that marriage does not work today because the values that were taught, like men from as young as 13 were trained to be husband.
Yeah.
Women from as young as same age were trained to be wives, right?
Yeah.
So he says that in the modern world, kwa mapo juu ya career, women are forced to go out and work. So there's no way you'll talk responsibility of the traditional woman as per the expectations of a man of who a wife should be, right? Because they are also doing the hunting. They are also going out there and work.
Yeah.
So he says in an ideal situation, he almost said, it's a very dangerous statement.
Yeah.
In an ideal situation,
Yeah.
women should stay home na ile responsibility ya African setting and a man provides.
Atamwangalia vizuri.
Your disclaimer iko na weight.
Yeah.
Break it down.
Tumeondoka pale pa marrying
Tunarudi
women.
hapo but tuna define a high value woman. So hapo
So
umesema
for me,
career.
okay, tuondoke the book, what we've been trained by the book to say what a high value woman is. Mi nijiondolee hiyo ya how I was taught by my teachers what a high value woman is. For me, I think because the first definition I gave ni yenye tu nimefunzwa na school. I've been taught like
yes
yeah, you have to be a career woman, you have to be this. But to me, I think a high value woman is a woman who understands herself and respects herself and who keeps boundaries. Alright, mwenye anajua hutavuka hii, because keeping boundaries ita avoid story mingi zenye tunaonanga YouTube ya akanifanya ita avoid hizo mambo mob. Yes. So a high value woman is somebody mwenye anajijua, who also respects herself na mwenye ako na boundaries zake, but also ni lazima akue she has to also be hardworking, whether ako kwa career ama ako nyumbani, kuna venye at least anapata doza kujieka hata ye mwenyewe.
Anapata doza kujieka.
Yes, ama food ya kukula, something to keep her going. She knows how to survive. Okay, yes.
Hard worker. Utaka home if someone was to provide for you everything.
Mi nitakaa sitadanganyana. Mi I'd stay home. But even in that staying home, I'd have my own 2 projects. Hata kama ni farming, hata kama sasa nafaa kukaa home bila kufanya hiyo.
I don't understand. I think maybe sasa I think that needs to be clear.
Yes.
Like enyaje, like let's say for example you have a career, uko kwa ofisi nini and then someone comes and propose and anasema
mimi nikiweza pata tu kukaa akona nini pale Tigoni, akona mashamba pale Tigoni, mimi naenda so long as tu nitakuwa na 2 project tu wangu vizuri na aseme hata
hii guka ni for story sake ama ni guka
guka Juhana mambo mob. Hutashinda ukiambiwa ati fanya hii style, fanya hivi, leta mwenzako mfanye hivi. Hana hiyo mambo. And then atakupea story. Anakupea stories and then like most gukas are gentlemen. Like they are very gentlemen, like they atakuachia, amekuandikia will, amekuweka kwa will, atakupatia shamba yake hata ukiwa tu moyo, hata akiwa moyo anakupea shamba yake.
Umeiweka na kisafiri kwanza.
Yeah. So me I'd stay but I'd have my so that I don't get bored.
Guka unajua that's scary when you say that because Guka pia is on the clock. Guka is on the clock. Guka is logging out. So hauna ile happily ever after for as long as possible.
See, I have it. So long as ako tu moyo sintaendelea.
Guka is someone who's logging out. Say at your age unajua Guka, and this is a very bad stereotype. Guka unajua kai Guka labda 10 years maximum. Sindio? So you don't want to get married beyond nitwaje?
But unajua hii conversation imetoka wapi?
Najua poa sana.
Imetoka pale umesema if I was told like somebody will take care of me nikae nyumbani, I'd accept it. I would, so long as I don't get bored, so long as I have things to keep me busy at home. Ndo nisipate depression. You get? Okay. Yeah, because if an idle mind is the devil's workshop.
Okay.
Yeah, so when you're idle, you start thinking about various things, different things. So so long as uko na kitu unafanya nyumbani, ataka unalea watoto, you're teaching them things and you have 2 projects, like you have a garden, you're gardening.
Okay. Sawa. So hii kitu imetoka tumeenda kwa career ku define high value woman and it came from you detesting
the NFL players don't marry at the top tier pink women. They don't.
I think that's a blanket judgment. Why do you think? Do you think the the white top tier women now that for white women you accept a classification for black women?
Because of the racism the racism that has been put, it's like and this has been fed even by the media, how like the women up there, they're usually the blondes. America and Hollywood, they tried so much to create that illusion. It may not be true, but I'm talking in terms of like, if you're gonna marry a pink woman, then go for Paris Hilton. Why can't they get Paris Hilton?
In my kienyeji, if I just drew things from my mind, I think Paris Hilton is associated with a few black guys, if I'm not wrong.
But they didn't marry her, did they? Unajua kuna kulala na wao, but kuna marrying. Did they marry her? Why not go for that?
So like, you know your value based
woman, on as a black man, why can't you marry? It's even the same. Why can't you marry like a Saudi princess if you like Arab women? you're an NFL player, you have the money, why aren't you allowed to marry those Saudi princesses?
Are you saying that the value of a person in a society, your value to someone, can be measured by their willingness to get married to you?
Repeat?
In terms of commitment. Like, let's say, umesema, she can sleep with them, but why hasn't anyone married them?
Yeah, why didn't she get married to a black man? Even somebody like Marilyn Monroe, why wouldn't a black man marry her? Or even Scarlett Johansson, those women, why is it that these NFL players,
That's
actually the only one who I've seen, Nabado, they've not gotten married, the daughter of Bill Gates, she has a black boyfriend, but hawajaoa Nabado. So I'm here to see that. So like, the way I see it, Nikama, it's like these young black men, it's like since when they were little boys. And it's not just in America, even here Africa, people would always be like, mimi nikikuwa mkubwa nitakuwa bibi ya mzungu. Nitakuwa mzungu. That's why I look down on that mentality. I really look down on anybody who
I think
thinks
it's blanket
like
judgment, but you have a point.
Yeah.
In terms of the intention to marry because you consider that superior. For those people who do that.
Yes, that part. No, that's the thing. Considering these people are like superior. That's why you want that, because unawataka ati I will get married to a mzungu one day.
I understand that, but I also need to get this from you, that if you are to find a white guy who you're genuinely interested in and they sweep you off your feet naturally.
Mimi ni Dr. Oma, no.
Never?
No.
Even if you like
it's
them?
Not, no.
Even if you like
how?
them naturally?
May I like my men black, thin, kama wewe.
Sasa sijui hata how to react because ako ka
So I
thin,
know the men I like.
ako ka thin umerusha hapo katikati kama haribu statement.
I'm sorry, Dr. Kingori. It is what it is.
But at least niko na allowance ya kunona. This conversation inakuja juu ya
you said like you find this kama it's like I'm racist towards pink people.
You are the opposite of
racist,
white supremacy.
Yes. Now here's the thing. You as a black person you can't be that. Because you see, we were not the originators of racism. In fact, we were very welcoming to the pinks, to the Asians. We were always welcoming. And you see, having read books like The Destruction of the Black Civilization,
yes,
you realize Africans, you need to learn your lessons. You cannot always be welcoming, because and you can't always be like innocent and always be like, no, yeah, it happened, now we can forgive and forget and continue. The fact is that everything that has happened to us, it still affects us even today. That is why Congo is fighting, for example. That is why we don't have tunafaa kukua super inaitwaje super nations huko Africa, yes. Superpowers. I say, like, when you ask me like this pink person ni guka yake alifanya hivyo, but huyu pink person ana benefit from what the guka did. It is not even natural for human beings to be existing so comfortably the way the Western nations exist. These guys, like, they are way too comfortable, and that comfortability has made them spoiled. That's why you will hear they get these weird ideas of even like changing the gender of children and telling children, no, if you feel like you're a boy and you're a girl, change it. It's just being spoiled, because when you make a human being so comfortable, and imagine they've been made comfortable over by our resources and our blood being used for them to live well. So it's led to all that. So if you say like, yeah, it's his guka who did that, he's benefiting from that. So what can they do to change what their gukas did? You remember when I was talking about curses and how curses are supposed to teach us to do what is right. So ukifika mahali uone like somebody did wrong hapa, what do? You correct it. So that's the whole thing. Okay. So we are not even allowed to be racist. Hata racism haiwezi kuwa sisi wenye tuli welcome wenye walikuwa wanakuja kutucolonize. right now it's just that you've looked and studied and seen hapa haugongwi tena.
Okay.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Thank you for that submission.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of your work, especially when it comes to African culture.
Yeah.
Like, but it's a good thing you're not afraid to say what's on your mind.
Oh, yeah, no. And I know I might, I always rub.
No, I'm a believer.
But Dr. Kingori, unajua we unachukuanga kale tu sensational. And then
No, it was true.
Yeah.
Like, when we talked about castor seeds,
Yes.
ilikuwa an interesting point to share. And,
yes.
there is full context.
Yeah.
we upload our conversations as they are,
Yeah.
like in full. Hakuna kitu tunakata.
Yeah.
And we actually say the platform is for open-minded people. Like,
Yeah.
approach with an open mind.
Yeah.
So now,
Did you ever have that dream of marrying a pink woman when you were young?
myself, no. My crush, let me think about my crushes even growing up.
And do you think it's the media that puts that inside us, or it is like how we were colonized? What do you think
No,
plants that seed?
No, okay. Superiority, inferiority complex is part of the content people may consume. As in, part of the content you consume may affect your mindset.
Yeah.
But then again, for me, I can crush on a certain person because of their person.
Yeah.
Not because they are white or black.
Yeah.
But then again, I noticed something. Like, it's so big, your white superiority complex, because I think I saw somewhere that for Michael Jackson to break certain barriers, he had to be as close to white as possible. That's one. You see Beyonce dons blonde hair like Nini.
Yeah.
She's rounded off to the nearest white woman she can be. And I get the same vibe from Tina Turner.
Yeah.
Whom I followed Juicy, like getting deep into her story, like the transformations and stuff. Like, kuna barriers before you unlock.
You have to look like a white woman or a white man.
Exactly. Like certain levels of success, like
And
you
it's
can't
sad.
access. It's sad, but I think that's also subject to confirmation. Our audience can
Like,
engage.
can I
upon
ask you a question? Do you see, like, and it's nothing against the black woman and her hair, but I always ask myself, you see, like how we wear wigs and the wigs are straight and they look like either an Asian woman's hair or a pink woman's hair. Do you think that Asian women or pink women would wear our hair, our curly hairs, wigs ziko na curls ama ziko na
You are
nini?
just suffering from something called survivorship bias.
No, I'm just
I'll
asking.
explain to you. Survivorship bias is if you get something na una feel umeipata juu ya nini you feel hawa watu wengine it is their fault that they are nini. Just because you can get your hair clean shaven na utese and you still look gorgeous does not mean kila mtu akinyoa atakuwa hivyo.
Yeah, I get it, but I've asked you a question. Do you think they'd do that? And it's nothing. By the wig industry, people are making money out of that. They are like, see hata ni kuwachapa, but it's a food for thought. Do you think that? Because the ancient Egyptians used to wear like wigs ziko na nini zinakaa dready. So do you think they do that? Okay, labda wa America hawawezi juu wataambiwa it is cultural.
There are white women who have been criticized. I think there's a lady who tried to be black. And there's also like madem wanashuka nywele, like plaiting their hair, like white women wana criticize you want to be black.
Cultural appropriation.
You understand? Exactly.
So it's usually a weird line of things, because it's like, it's okay if we try to be light, if we try to wear straight hair, but it's wrong for them if they do that. You get?
So like that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So there are cases of people like that. So my explanation would be human beings are social beings.
Yeah.
Okay? We always want to belong. And the status game is also very demanding in the sense that if there's someone who explains of a story, a man who succeeds in Harvard akakuwa number 1 nini top performers, right? And then he gets a job and moves into a neighborhood ya people who are like extremely rich, wamekuwa traders nini. So the wife there's pressure from the wife that they are not performing better life wise. Get because in the neighborhood they are, the people they are comparing themselves with are doing better. But remember, in a certain context, this guy is a champion of champions mahali ametoka. But ametoka, he's set himself in a situation where he does not belong. So there's a place where he's a star. He's the person people are looking up to. But he gets inserted in an environment where now he has to work so hard to match up, right? So the same way, kwa hii world where, let's say, white supremacy has been drummed in people's heads so much, like it's like that's the shortest route to belonging. That's the shortest route to admiration.
Yes, to admiration. Okay,
but
I love that.
You can't help it. Like the media we consume na kila kitu.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's not the sad reality of things. So as Africans, how then, if the shortest route, and okay, what is acceptable is the pink supremacy, right? What the acceptable beauty of standard is the pink beauty of standard. So where does that leave us as Africans? You get
it's a fight.
Sasa we try to
it's a fight beyond this generation.
Yeah.
It's a fight beyond this generation. This is something that has been built for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Right? I think it requires a similar or something close or a better strategy.
Do you think we can be able to have that strategy?
For people to see themselves as in to be content in who they are.
Yeah.
Awareness helps. Kama wewe, you are a beneficiary of awareness.
Yeah.
In a certain environment, ungekuwa na muguka wako mzungu hapo Tigoni.
Yeah.
Ungekuwa tu sawa. And that brings me to, I'm very curious.
Why the guka or?
Why you don't go to church?
Oh, so.
Have you ever gone to church?
Yeah,
Like,
I was a Jehovah's Witness. I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. I remember my shosho, me and her, we'd go. But
your shosho was in church?
Yeah.
Who radicalized you? If your shosho was
by the both my shoshos on my father's side and on my mother's side, although I didn't find my shosho on my mother's side, but my shosho I didn't find my shosho on my father's side, but she was a staunch Christian. Alikuwa kwa chama inaitangwa Fufuka. And my grandmother, the one that I found, she was a church woman. I think God just spoke to me and was like, I want you to go through this path. Because if we keep thinking that the right path is church or mosque, I think we end up, that is part of the reason why as Africans, we might not like ourselves that much, because we will always think that our history was not right and our way of beliefs, our belief systems, they were not right. Zilikuwa na shida. And if we think like that, then inherently it shows that ni sisi tuko na shida. So for me, I need to, when God was like, I bring God because I learned about God when I introduced myself to God when I was 13. Na sikuwa kwa kanisa, na sikuwa kwa culture. Mimi sikupata Mungu kwa kanisa. As much as I was going with shosho and everything, I didn't find God there. I even went to an ACK church, didn't find God there. So when I at 13, when I'm speaking and introducing myself to God, I'm not in church, I'm not in culture, because culture imekuja now afterwards. So when God started teaching me about culture, there are some lessons that I learned, and it was like, not everything your ancestors did was right, but there are some very good things that they were doing. And I want you to learn about the bad and the good, and I want you to take the good. All right? So now I like learning from my ancestors about what was their perspective of life, what good were they doing, how did they view God. And I can tell you for a fact, those before us feared God more than we do today. And not even feared, they respected God more than we do today. Because kuna mambo hawakuwa wanafanya yenye tunafanyanga sahi.
Which begs the question, between you and your grandmother, who was closer to your ancestors?
Me. Me.
Your grandmother probably met them.
Kuna the generation, unaona Gen X, kwenda now before, I can say my great-grandmother because I met my great grandmother. She was closer, like, to culture and everything. But her children, now they had entered religion and they were told everything about their culture was demonic and it was evil. And that's now what we found.
So your great-grandmother was
Yes.
taught that their culture was demonic?
No, my grandmother now.
Your grandmother?
Yes.
But your great-grandmother...
Yes. She
believed
held culture. I met her. Her name
African-
was Aseri. Yeah.
African spirituality?
Yes.
And from which age does your great-grandmother live? Like fresh from Congo, ama she had been in Kenya for some time?
Kengori.
How far back we are going?
My great grandmother, she when the Mau Mau War was being fought, she was a young woman, probably a teenager. Yeah.
Then Basi,
Yeah.
my grandfather,
Yeah.
time emergency,
Yeah.
was in school. So, and I believe I found a receipt yake ya school akiwa class 2 in 1952, I believe. And I think he was my age then. Because there is no way he was in class 2. And 9 years later, he was in class 2 in 1952. I saw the receipt. And then 9 years later, my father is born. So,
so he was probably...
I think my grandfather was in class 2 at my age right now.
No, I think maybe he was younger. Is your father the firstborn?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe he was younger. Because they
But
were
you do
getting
that
kids...
class 2. Class 2.
No, I get, yes, he could have been class 2, like akiwa older. Like maybe he was like 20, 22 apo. Or what do you mean?
No, he must have been 40.
Or
30. 1952, he was in class 2. My father is born 9 years later. So inamaanisha basi alikuwa mtu mkubwa. So
Yes.
kama when the Mau Mau fight was being fought na your grandmother was still a young girl, inamaanisha basi
great grandmother. She was still young, but she still held to her African spirituality. Because there are some things, like I remember one day we were talking and I could see like she understood African spirituality well, and like now her kids.
What does that mean to you, African spirituality? And what's the difference between that and you meeting God at 13?
At 13.
Yes.
So African spirituality is knowing God in the way your ancestors knew God. All right? Now, we can't get, at this moment, because of everything that has happened, our history and everything, it is hard for us to be born into African spirituality.
Okay.
So, most of us, we are born into religion.
In fact, African spirituality is different from witchcraft.
Yeah, it's different from witchcraft. Mm-hmm. But people are not able to...
separate.
Yeah, people are always thinking that just because you view God in the way your ancestors viewed him, they automatically label you as a witch doctor or a witch, which but is just...
depend. See, African spirituality do involve worshipping a tree.
No, they didn't worship the tree. The tree was their place of worship.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Their tree was their place of worship. If you look at, I don't know, African cultures are very different.
I understand. Yeah, I think my mind wandered.
Yeah?
My mind wandered.
Okay.
Unajua Gen Z ndio unaweza pata watu wana worship mti.
And it's just not understanding what their ancestors were doing. Unaona hiyo mti ilikuwa nikaa kanisa ya leo. So wakitaka kuongeleshea Mungu cause hawakuwa na saa the structure buildings, walikuwa wanaenda chini ya kimtu kikubwa. So they worship God from there, they make the sacrifices like that. It's like we don't worship watu wa mlima, we don't worship the mountain. No.
You just face the mountain.
Yes, the creator of that mountain. All right? Because we believe when he comes to earth, anakaanga hapo. Yes, anatokanga, we say the creator of heaven and earth, because mobi wa iguru na athi. But now, when his spirit comes, anaketingi hapo kwa mlima. But hakutoka hapo. Si ati alitoka hapo ndani ya mlima, hapana. but that is his seat of kingship. That's why we face that.
And that's the basis of
Yes.
that is the basic, that is the concept
Yes.
of African spirituality
Yeah.
from Mount Kenya region.
Yes, from Mount Kenya region. And I've had people say, Ati, how dare you say that? But I always ask, especially the religious people, I always ask them, where did Moses get the 10 commandments? On Mount Sinai. Who gave him God? So it shows that if you can believe that, then why is it so hard to believe that kuna mtu anaweza sema Mungu wangu anaketingi his place of kingdom, his king penye huwa ana rule ni pale juu ya Mount Kenya. Why is it such a hard concept?
How do we know the concept of God is in the mountain? Sio mzungu alikuja akapigia musapere fulani story. No, ya Mount Sinai. Hiyo story tu akampigia story like let's say they were friends, akampigia story and then this person akaenda akapigia mtu mwingine story and it becomes a basis of a religion because it's very close of a coincidence that the mountain story in the Bible and then sasa now mountain sasa ndio hii. Don't you think that's so close of a coincidence?
You see many cultures all over the world. Even when you go to the Chinese, they have holy mountains where they claim that there are deities there. Every culture, hata ukiangalia kama ni kuna wenye huwa wana face Mount Elgon. You see, ukiona kitu kubwa, like when you see a creation that is
too big,
not even too
larger
big,
than life,
that is outstanding, like you're like, oh my God, who created that? Who's the owner of that? So the cultures that are closer to the mountain, so you find that they say, hey, the owner of that mountain.
The owner.
Yes.
Doesn't your belief change now?
Yeah.
Just hapo before endelee.
Yeah.
Doesn't your belief change now? Ukisoma geography, alafu unaambiwa kumbe ni volcano.
No. That's talking very...
No, so, tuna balance between awareness na like understanding where this comes from. Like, oh wow, who created this? But kumbe your great grandparents did not have geography. Alafu geography inakuja inaonesha the process of volcanic eruption kutengeneza. Oh, so kumbe
the process is the design. So who created that design? Ilijitengeneza.
I believe in God, but now I'm being a devil's advocate for
I
the
get
purposes
it.
of this conversation. For purposes of this conversation.
I get it. Like
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Like the human mind is very, very creative. Okay.
Yes.
So now, if the mountain, as in the volcanic processes, scientists ataenda explain earth forces zikimove, or how volcanoes are created, and then it erupts, lava dries up, the mountain is formed. Yeah. You understand? It's ndio hiyo.
Yes.
Okay.
But you see, that's a designed process. Even when a scientist may explain, you can see it is a process that's been designed for that mountain to be created. Right? So who's the creator of that process?
Si ndio ninasema like shifting forces, hiyo lava,
yes,
moto.
But
then basi you should worship the mountain basi if
no,
this the process,
we can't worship
ikifika mahali ugundue it's magma, you worship magma kwanza, alafu tutafute magma inatoka wapi mpaka we trace the designer of the process.
But from the very start I told you we don't worship the mountain, we worship the being that came up with that whole concept ya magma. Mwenye ali come up na hiyo concept venye ili happen venye that being that designed that whole process. That is what we are like enyewe it imetu impress. So that's why we even say mwene nyaga, the owner of that mountain. And it is not just even ati mzungu angekuja atuambia ati story ya Moses. No, the Chinese, they have their god. There are various gods on the mountains. They have, when you look, I don't know if it's the Baluya who face Mount Elgon. They believe the strength of God ikikuja hii earth inakalia hapo. So yeah, it is different people with that concept.
That's above me.
Yeah.
But let's go to something I believe you've spoken on so much, like beyond the belief in God, beyond the belief in a higher power. Kuna easy cultures, like I told you a story of my Martin, mwenye nili reference when we started the show. We were eating, tulikuwa nakula food mahali. Then akakula nyama. Alafu akasema unajua hii mfupa na kisapere ama in Kuk culture ukisha ukula you have to toboa it sijui or what happens. So anamobserve tu and then somehow he couldn't help it. Alichukua tu akaitoboa for the sake, like he does not believe but he believes. Akaitoboa tu. So I was like, why are you not willing to risk? Ukose kutoboa ndio you see what happens, right? And then when we sat with you before the set ukasema it goes to a place where there are people who believe that there is a certain sex style ukijaribu you are gone.
Kikuyus never used to do doggy style. They never used to do doggy style. And it's written, in fact, when a young man was getting married or a young woman was getting married, unakalishwa na baba yako. And it's written so well in the Southern Kikuyu. It's written if you even
so imeandikwa na Kikuyu, si ndio? So imeandikwa gui.
No, doctor. This title ya gui. But that's the word we use today. But sasa it is written komorutiana dhutha.
Okay.
Komorutiana dhutha means taking her from the back. Okay. You're directly translating.
So I just needed to confirm.
Now, what is interesting, it would say, if you do it, you'll die. Higher. Let's say what other rule did I read? If like, let's say, it has to be, si wife yako siwe ukwe ati ni wewe ka unadominatiwa na wife ni wewe umdominate juu utakufa.
As in be the chiwa, not the chiwi.
Yes. You have to be the dominant one. So now I kept asking myself this concept of you will die. At the end of the day hakuna mtu ana exit hii dunia ukiwa moyo, right? But then I started to study more. And I started to think, today, when you look at how those before us, they were living longer than even us. And their lives, many of them, they were living longer, many years more than us. And so, just say Dr. Kengori.
So, if someone gets married, alafu bwana yake akufe mapema.
No, I'm getting that.
Okay.
I'm getting there.
Sawa.
I'm getting there. So I started to think to myself, so ijinaya, you will die. I was like, why are they putting that fear inside this guy? Like, if you do this, you will die. If you do this, you will die. I started to think, okay, these guys, they were living, they had more years more than us. Like, unakuta mtu amegonga 100, 101, nini. And I started to think, perhaps it's because those little laws, they were governing their societies, and so unakuta people are not as, okay, first of all, like in terms of those sexual laws, it just means that people are not allowed to be promiscuous. You get? Because there are some things like, perhaps if you start to say komorutiana dhudha, you're going to think, okay, what does can I get into the anus? Can I do this? Perhaps it was just protecting them from all that curiosity and just doing things in terms of the maybe not the wrong direction, but doing things kukwenda extreme. You get me?
Yes.
So I always thought perhaps the reason why they kept saying you will die, perhaps it was because
to threaten.
Not to threaten, but to instill a fear whereby you just remain innocent. You just remain kasociety kenu hamjui mambo mingi. You at the end of the day, us as humans, we get destroyed by our own knowledge. So maybe that's the reason why. I don't know.
So we have to give it up for the first Kikuyu to breathe.
Yes, who just said, I'm going to do it
wacha
doggy.
kaende.
Yeah.
and I'm still around, guys.
Yes.
It is safe.
Yes.
And do you think these things, do you think some of them work? Ama,
What?
the people who died from doggy style,
Yeah.
they died from guilt. Like, because you suspected yourself that you're going to die, ilikuwa hapenia.
How do you see our society today? Like, do you think for us, like we had a conversation and you said like in Nairobi kuna kwanga na usherati mob.
Wakora.
Yeah.
There's no monopoly for
Yes.
sex.
So was it like that in the past?
Yes.
No.
I believe just because there was no Instagram,
Yeah.
like you could not sing
Yeah.
about the things that you do. But I know, and this I can tell
Yeah.
for sure, and I know I have witnesses, we have professional singers
Yeah.
in this country. And they were there from Kitambo.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
people, and I think this is a separate conversation. Yeah, the sexuality of women is a beast.
Yeah.
Like iyo ni story ingine tena.
Yeah.
But Kitambo, patriarchy had managed it sana. Right? But now with freedoms that come, so watu wamekuwa wakora vizuri, and there is access.
Now that's the part of freedom and access. So unaona hiyo mambo ya kuambiwa, you see that fear that you're being told you will die, that was it's like ndio ilikuwa ina manage hiyo freedom and access ya kufanya mambo zingine. You get?
But pia unapata it was like it was like figurative language and people misinterpreted.
Yes, because and it could be, when I first did the video about doggy style, it could have been that perhaps anal sex is bad. You get?
Yes. But also hiyo ya msichana ataniua na nini, you understand?
No.
So it is labda mse alikuwa anapigia mse mwingine like hiyo style itakuua, like
Okay. Could have been that, yeah.
Misinterpreted,
Maybe we
italafu ikakuwa
misinterpreted. Maybe we misinterpreted, but for me, okay, unaona kama for instance, unaona hiyo kitu ya ku poke
the bone. Yes.
Number one, you poke it so that ukiweka hapo grass can grow for your animals to eat.
That's one explanation.
Yes, that's one explanation. The other one is that when you do that, you see now the animals will get the grass to eat and they will be able to give birth to each other more. They'll be more healthy. So that means you will have more animals. You get? So that's why that explanation ya kudunga hiyo kitu ndio grass grow, ndo isinini hiyo part isikue ati kuna ka grass kamefichwa na hako kabon. So ndio animals, kani mbuzi yako ikuje ikule hiyo grass, ipate food, iweze kuzaa mtoto, iweze kuzaa like katoto kake, and then you get you get a bigger flock. Yeah.
You'll be surprised. That's a very beautiful explanation, because you'll be surprised at the net effect of some of the things that happened Kitambo and how they impact society today.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of something I found fascinating. I'll give an example with Caliph Cairo. Caliph Cairo has been made fun of away from using Gorizote. If people did not have something to attack him for, they used to attack him because he uses his mother's name. Watu walikuwa wanamwambia go find your father and stuff. You understand? Then I read Wangari Maathai's book, and she explains a very unique concept. When the white people came and the settlers came, they created they needed to raise resources, and they created a tax, right? And this tax could only be paid in money, and it's only them that had money. The Kikuyu men had goats, the Kikuyu community had goats. They were not accepting goats. So for you to pay, you had to work for them. So that they pay you in money, they will afford tax. So for men to look for work, they had to migrate. Unapata a man, kama Wangari Maathai's father, traveled from Hashags, akaenda to Nakuru. So unapata this migration of men going to look for work in different towns brought about the concept of families, as in households, headed by women. And it is from this concept, unapata, like when you go, ukienda pandeyo, they probably start another family. And it is this concept that is credited for an increase in sexually transmitted diseases in the community and infidelity. You understand? Alafu hiyo culture ya single motherhood which again translates mpaka kwa society ya leo. And I think it's in that book, ama it is my own my confabulation, like creating an explanation out of it, that kumbe this is something that can be traced to hii kitu ya most women from central Kenya are single mothers. The net effect of something that happened by design, like an unintended consequence.
Like, I'm glad you brought that up, because people usually think that central women are single mothers because that we are difficult or like labda hatuwezangi kukaa na wanaume. No, ni hiyo yenye umesema. It is a generational, can we call it a generational trauma? Kitu ili happen ndio imeleta hii net effect yote. You see, so culturally men were allowed to be polygamous. And I did a video, perhaps it was a bit it's a bit, people would think differently, but if you look at the concept of polygamy, I read in a book, and I also believe, and I said this, I said monogamy isolates women, but polygamy, like if Dr. Kengori, you were to marry 2 women with university graduates, who are university graduates or who are smart in their own way, unaweza kaliwa.
Ati?
Utakaliwa vizuri sana.
Why are you so sure?
Because if they live together and if they are smart together, they'll be able to democratize. And if they ask for something, like let's say they say hii nyumba, the way we will be deciding things is democratically. We vote. Tunasema we just vote. And if they are smart if the 2 of them are smart, and if you decide something, if you come up with something that is not like that favors you more than it favors them, and these 2 are smart, watakuwa wanafanya everything venye wao wanataka. But when she's by herself, the isolation starts from the home. So when she's by herself, like let's say if you are narcissistic and you want to bring a strong woman down, kuna vitu utampitisha na hata isema, but you'll be cracking her pole because she's isolated. But akiwa na mama mwingine, atakuwa anamwambia hiki kimtu kimenigonga. Sasa tufanye aje? Tukigonge hata sisi, ama tumwambie hata kuwa na tugonga. So the thing was this, where I was getting to, and I know you'll have questions about that. So culturally, men were polygamous, and the funny thing about Kikuyu culture is that women have always been given this kind of inakwanga balanced the gender roles, because even if you look at our clans, they are all women. Everybody falls under a female clan, whether male or female. So the thing is that when we were taken to the concentration camps, the man could not be able to live with his 4 wives or 3 wives. So he had to abandon some of them. So now when he abandoned some of them, hata hakuwa na hizo resources juu mbuzi zake zimechukuliwa, shamba zake zimechukuliwa, these others had to start fending them for themselves. And so they had to start even selling themselves for them to be able to afford even food for their children. That means they'd either sleep with the collaborators, the gati, who are working with the pink man, so that they could be able to sustain their homes. So hiyo kitu ikaenda hivyo hadi wa leo. Unakuta single mothers. So yeah.
But you also accept that? And okay, that's too strong to say, accepting, because someone was very authoritative in their saying, in their assessment that there's an estate in Nairobi, I won't mention the name, at where like 80% of the households are widows. And they alluded to
Kabere, unasema kabete ama
hapana, sitasema 80%. Sasa ukisema kabere hata umeongeza. So 80% are widows, and the story is the same. Like the old man, the man of the house, once they have outlived their usefulness, you're gotten rid of.
Yeah.
There's this talk of It's an unfair stereotype to throw to Central Kenya. Hizi strategies za steel wool, sijui kuwekewa simiti polepole. Would you say that somehow pia there could be, if this was to be true, there could be an element of something that happened that can explain this phenomenon if it exists?
Killing men?
Yes. Would you say that to a certain extent, if it's true, if there are women who do that, there could be something that happened, ni kama ile red thigh, but sasa is your red thigh, ini you take action. You understand?
So, when I was, there's a time I was just trying to find out why today, and I mean, I'm just looking in terms of like my culture. So why is it that today you find, I was just looking, why is it that today there's more gender-based violence than there was a long time? Because when I was I asked...
The reporting was low back then and it was normal.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was always, when I looked into the women, and I'd ask I'd ask my great grandmother, but then I also read a law that if a man beat up his wife, he'd be beaten up by the other men of his clan, and he would even get chased away. Now, when I was looking into that law of like ukichapa mwanamke wewe mwenyewe unachapwa na unafukuzwa, why is it not happening today? Now, I started to see that, for instance, where I come from, it's Kabete. Whenever the women, there's a woman who, we were just being told a story whereby her husband would beat her up until her clothes would come out. And it's not one, it was actually two in the village I grew up in. Now, when their husbands died, they were so happy because they felt like sasa sitakuwa nachapwa tena. Now, femininity is very funny. Femininity, it may be soft, but it's also very smart and very cunning. People underestimate femininity. Now, when you keep beating and being unfair to it retaliates. So, hii kitu ya kuona wamama wakiua mabwana zao, I'm not saying ati they should do it, but ujue it's retaliation. Ujue there's something that is up with the masculinity. Kuna kitu hiyo masculinity imefanya that these women have decided, apana, I'd rather be a widow than wacha nimpe steel wool kuliko niendelee na yeye hivi. Ni either moja wetu akae alive, one of us has to go. So that is femininity retaliating. And ujue femininity, it does not retaliate ati nitakudunga makisu. It's very rare that you see a woman being violent. No, she just uses poison. So for us, like, I think this thing was birthed from like the gender violence that had started like tunini, that was not taken care of. Once that law ya kuchapa mwanaume akichapa bibi yake was removed, then the men were allowed to do whatever they wanted. They started niniring, and then these guys will retaliate.
Okay, and it's also important to put a disclaimer that this is not exclusive to the Kikuyu community. We have one of our previous episodes, we featured Dr. Mwaka from Tanzania, who practiced witchcraft at some point.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, for a very long time. And he gave us a story about a contract he was offered by a woman and her son to kill the husband, like the father of the child. And it was coming from a place, the threat of distribution of resources. Kuna hiyo ya violence, but kuna hiyo pia when a man gets to a certain point, he wants to taste different, or the idea of another family or another wife. So the threat of resources, would that be, if that happens, for example, would that be justification enough for those who
there's nothing even justifiable for killing a human being.
Justification is a strong word. Would that be
nimesema tu unaona in terms of venye umeniuliza kuhusu kuwekea wanaume, I wanted to show you that by the time huyu mama anafikiria kuweka hiyo ama kuweka ujue kuna shida kwa hiyo kwa hiyo boma. Ujue there's a problem. So where is that problem coming from? So hiyo ya property, kani property, that's just being greedy. And they wanted to kill the nanny, they wanted to kill the dad, juu dad amepata bibi mwingine.
He wanted to marry someone else, yes.
Wow. So why? Because of properties.
Yes.
So they
They
decided.
felt that if he marries
Eh.
another woman,
Eh.
that means another family, and then the cake is smaller, or probably all of it goes.
Because of the resources.
Yes.
Because every single this is what should happen. Me, I usually tell people, not every man can be polygamous. It's good to look at things before you even go and marry another woman. You try and see, can you be able to keep these two families well and taken care of bila kuwa nini?
That's a skill in itself.
Yeah.
Like there are men who, let's say for example, there's a man who, if they try to be polygamous with a certain woman, the woman would be violent, the woman would react negatively and stuff, and probably kill the man. But the same woman would marry someone else who's polygamous, and they would understand, and they would be comfortable in a setting with another woman or other women. Like polygamy is about the man, not the woman. Like kuna women who say, oh, I can't accept polygamy.
Hey, I don't think polygamy is. I don't even think that men. If I was a man, I wouldn't be polygamous.
Why?
Because I think it takes a lot to take care of one woman. Imagine
if
two.
you have the money.
Even
Like
if you have the money, it takes a
polygamy
lot.
is basically cheating in the open, sindio?
No. Cheating in the open is adultery. If you polygamy, unajua kwa polygamy, you will marry this wife. Utasema huyu ni wangu. I have married them, and it's not even a sin against God. Because if
the
it was,
difference is the same. Polygamy is basically declaring that, hey, my dear wife, I'll be chewing this one too, but at least you know. But let's make it official.
but yes, there's a difference. You've made it official.
See, that's cheating in the open.
No, it's not cheating. You've officiated it. So you may make it official. You've said, oh, hapo pa official. That's the cheating utamake official.
Si ndio nasema, if you can, you know, nimeambiwa for women, if someone comes to you and you like them, na kwambie, by the way, mi siwezi kaa na one woman, as long as they told you from the start, you'll be okay with it.
Hapana. Unajua ni huyu mtu akuoe, make it official.
Yes.
You get, so sasa itakuwa cheating juu huyo ni bwanako. But the thing was, people always think that polygamy is about the man, that the man having two women. Me, if I were a man, mi singekuwa na bibi wawili. It's a lot. Even if ningekuwa na pesa, it takes a lot to take care of two women and make them happy and satisfied. Polygamy, what it does, and if na si ya leo sio polygamy, and not everybody can be polygamous, but I'm just showing a different perspective. If you bring two women in one house, and if they're smart enough, especially if you are narcissistic or if you're violent, hao wamama hawataitikia uwafanyie kitu mbaya.
Are you saying the secret is balancing a smart woman and a foolish one?
No, Dr. Kingori.
No, umesema two smart women graduates watakugeuzia.
Yes, and they'll be able to be more productive and more empowered, especially if all of you like munafanya kazi, you will even have more resources. You get? Yes. But sasa wewe utakaliwa kidogo. Juu hautakuwa unaweza
kufanya. That is not a guarantee.
Utakaliwa kidogo.
Una insist sana, but that is not a guarantee.
Yeah, it's not
for
a guarantee.
For you to be able to put them in one house, inamaanisha you are smart enough to handle that situation.
Yes, but at the same time, that's if you get two women, hata si nyumba moja, hata same compound, if you get two women who are very, very smart, they will be, and they know, like, we want to build a home and we want to do this and this. Itakuwa ngumu kidogo kwako kuwa handle if they are strong and smart.
So all you're saying is all smart women are difficult.
Not really. What I'm trying to tell you is that you see how people usually think that polygamy was benefiting men. It was benefiting women because it was protecting women more from narcissistic men and from men who are violent and all that, because they would protect each other than when she was alone.
Polygamy because you don't want it to benefit women.
Sorry?
Do you support polygamy kwanza?
Me, I came from that.
Sawa, but
even you probably came from that.
No.
No, your ancestors, I'm sure there was
No.
one.
And I think one thing I draw,
Dr. Kingori,
labda mi
come
nikuwe na
on.
hiyo nyota, but then when I see my grandfather, I know my grandfather with one family.
Now your great
Both
grandfather.
Same.
Your great grandfather.
That I don't know. But I know, like from my great grandfather, my grandfather, one woman, like I don't know outside kid actually, hakuna kabisa. My father, yes, same, one woman. But sasa, yeah.
Why? What were you thinking about?
I was thinking because I don't know whether they pranked me. Because one time I needed to handle something. I needed to make a decision about history ya kukuwa na mtoi na you're not married. And then my mom dropped me something. Kasema, no, these things happen. Even your dad has a kid outside. So I called my dad. In the same call. Nikakata simu. Nikamwambia buka hata simu kidogo. So I called my dad immediately. Nikamwambia, ni aje? Ati, unakuanga na tuongee tu. Like, do you have another kid like beyond us? And he said yes. And he told me that apparently huyo mtoi pia was classmates with my brother. So I called my brother and nikamuuliza, ni aje mlikuwa daru na msi anaitwa hivi? And he says yes. So I called my mom. Sinia alikuwa anajua. Sinia aliniambia my dad had a kid outside. Then I called my mom nikamwambia, by then ni ukweli dad says he has a kid outside. Akaniambia, ni ukweli? He told you? Na ni yeye alianza hii story yote in the first place. You understand? So I don't know kama it was, I don't know whether I called them at the same time and they were pranking me, but it was a family joke for me. So but I know him with my mom peke yake. Yes.
So you are asking me if
kama you support polygamy.
Okay, me I always look at where women gain.
Do you support
me
polygamy?
I came from there sasa fighting. Me sinanga shida na polygamy. Sinanga shida.
Let's not go through corners.
Yeah, sinanga shida nayo. I don't have a problem with it because I look at the problems today that part of the reason why you get so many single mothers is because a man can actually be monogamous but anaenda nje anazaa watoto na hatake responsibility. So who's being left ni watoto na hao wa mama. So what polygamy would do is that unatoka unasema niko na hii familia na niko na hii familia ingine, and you know what, nitawaangalia nyinyi nyote. Hakuna kuficha fichwa.
Circumstances. Sio ati I come to you nikwambie, hey ni aje sasa I have a 5-year plan to marry 3 wives, so I want you to be number 1. Ama you can come number 2, niende nini ama first runners up. We make the deal in advance. That does not work.
Sorry?
If I came to you na proposal imeiva nikwambie, by the way, I have a plan for the next 5 years, nataka 3 wives, and I think I would like to interview you for position 1 ama position 2. That is in advance. What you're saying is polygamy cannot work like that. Nini kusurprise na circumstance you can do nothing about. You get married, alafu I go get other children, alafu ni wa launch as a family.
No, that's not what I'm saying, Dr. Kingori. No, that's not what I'm saying. Because even a long time you would find that a woman who was getting married, she'd always know that kuna mwingine atakuja. Yes. And she's the one who would even find that other woman.
That's a good deal.
Yeah.
Like when nikikatia mtu nimwambie nakupatia 2 years unitafutia another one like you.
No, asi tutamwambia ama nini. It is asi tutamwambia ati ni unakupatia deal unitafutie mtu mwingine. No, it is just that it would reach a point whereby I told you the whole isolation thing. You're like, okay, sasa niko na shamba mob ya kulima, niko na nini, huyu na yeye ni lazima nilale na yeye, watoto wako hapa, okay, wacha nitafute mtu anisaidie na hii na hii na hii. That's that. So it
would look for a solid excuse that your wife can understand.
You're not the one.
Shamba ni mingi.
No, you're not the one who's looking for that excuse. Remember, she's the one who's like, okay, at this point I'm like, it's too much.
You see why men are crying? Like, where are the women wa kitambo? Walienda wapi?
No.
A woman who can look for another woman for you. What happened to this world?
Okay. So now, to avoid, like, even if, like, let's say if there was a widow,
yes,
and you see, like, kuna widow who has died. Badala ya uyo widow akose mtu akumuangalia, like, a place of security na nini, you would invite her to come and be in your family as a wife. You get? So a long time there was that. there was all that. But sasa it reached a point whereby, I don't know, maybe it's the lack of resources and everything, whereby you find that hata watu wanauana ukisikia mtu akona mtu wako. You get? So me, I just feel like if today perhaps, if today, instead of being always thinking that polygamy was favoring the men and always thinking that it was
a good thing.
Yeah, and always thinking that it's the men who are enjoying. Me, I feel like it protected women more, because you wouldn't find single mothers, you wouldn't find like women constantly being abused in their relationships. My grandfather was telling me a story whereby his grandfather he was a violent man. So it was, I don't know if it was his dad who was violent. And so the thing is, he wanted to always beat his wife. But then the wife got another wife. And so once she got that wife, there's no other time that the dad ever beat the wife again, because huyu akisikia anachapwa, huyu anasema hapana, huyu naye juu anajua huyu anajua atakujiwa the next one. So that is how they were able to to bring that whole thing down. So for me, I've always looked at it from that perspective. I've always seen as monogamy isolating women. Yeah, I've always seen it as that. And I've never seen as men benefiting from polygamy. I think it used to even tire them a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you think.
Yeah, that's me.
It's good to think like
yeah.
that. So now, before we let you go, I think you explained your concept here, the beliefs, and my understanding, the beliefs of the things that don't do this, don't do that. I would have been interested to go deeper into other things beyond your kutoboa bone, but I think the idea of selling fear works best for me to control society.
Yeah.
I think that concludes it.
And religion does that too.
Yes. And human beings need that.
Yeah, you see, humans are very funny creatures.
Yes.
If you don't... At a fear, I think it's laws. Humans cannot live without law. And I think that's what people have not really understood. You have to be regulated. Regulate humans, they will do whatever they want.
Exactly. And human beings can be evil, actually.
Yeah, so the reason why, like, for instance, you're being told don't do doggy style is because you will think about the anus and then you're going to be like, hata hii naingiza hapa.
Or you will start seeing extra.
Yeah, and you're going to think, okay, what can I do now? Oh, what can I do with this whole...
Yes.
So then we always like, it's like when you put women and you say you should not be with women, you should not touch women, you should not do this with women, hata mfai kushikana mikono. Utaangalia tu mwanaume mwenzako useme basi huyu ni yeye nitaguza nishikane mikono. So as humans we need laws. From the very beginning we've always had laws that govern us. So tusipokuwa na hizo then and now the laws, like now to instill the laws you need to instill that fear.
I also think that your doggy style for the Kikuyu community was probably orientation for virgins, because they wouldn't know which one.
Oh yeah, yes, that's another thing. And in the Kikuyu culture, perhaps, okay, I don't know if that's the thing, but in Kikuyu culture, both were required to be virgins.
Okay.
Like that
so
we have.
Yes,
so afadhali. But you see, there's also the urethra, which.
na Kikuyus pia na relationship yao na missionaries.
No, so now, Dr. Kingori, it was there even before the missionaries. It was there before the missionaries.
We cannot know. We cannot know.
Because Louis Leakey, when you look at when Louis Leakey is coming, he's writing his book in the early 1900s, and before that he had met people who are like in a
Louis Leakey.
Yeah.
Huyu wajuzi hapa in 1900 he was writing.
Yeah, he was the one who's written the Central Kikuyu. And akina these people
not like his dad in 1900 he was a writer.
Yes, Louis Leakey is the one who's written this book.
Kwani you want to say that he was over 100 and something years?
No, si wasahi.
Sio
babake.
Exactly.
Babake.
Ndio nasema that must have been
babake,
the dad.
So like when he's writing that, he had to even be he learned the language, he became like a Kikuyu kabisa. So now and then he was like he started to learn from the elders all
Yes.
these things. So when he's writing even about the sexual things, these elders like si ati walikuwa wameambiwa na misheni ama anything.
Okay,
No.
okay.
Yeah.
So, and before we let you go,
Yeah.
like, do you think there's a way culture, and this is a conversation, we have a series on this
Yeah.
actually on the platform. Do you think there's a way your culture, like coming from the mountain,
Yeah.
affects how you relate with money?
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, like even that phrase of no kogeria money, that phrase is like you're leaving it to a higher being, and you're saying it's not me, it's another higher being.
You don't accept. You
Yeah.
don't accept that there's something like when you have it, you don't accept.
Yeah, because you know it might. It's all up to God. It can be. It can end ama inaweza kaa. So culture affects how we relate with money because. Like, let's see, when there's a time I was reading a book called Mutiri Mutarani, and how
Yes.
as a Kikuyu you could start, like even if you're just a beggar, you could grow yourself and become a powerful man. They are called Mwadhi. You could basically own a lot of cattle and land.
Yes.
So how they were being able to do that is that when you were, like, if you are a beggar, a hardworking one, okay, a hardworking, yes, you're poor, but you're hardworking.
Yes.
You go and be employed by a boss who has money. That boss would always pay you 10% of his cattle. All right. So 10%, like let's say you have like, he has like 100 goats and sheep, atakulipa 10% of that. Every season, after every season. So you see, you could be able to save those 2 cattle that you're getting until you become rich. If he saw that you are so hardworking, what he would do, he'd even help you get a wife. He would help you do the Rurashio, get a wife, and you know, you start a life. So there's always that thing of empowering each other. Although today it's not there as much, but there's always that thing of empowering each other and that thing of instilling hard work. You get. In fact, a long time ago, they even had, walikuanga wanakopeshana. Ka huna enough sheep ya kununua shamba. Unaenda kwa the adhi, to the rulers of that, to the rich people of that area. Unawambia wakukopeshe some goats, utawarudishia. Unanunua shamba. Yeah, so there was that concept. So, yeah, culture does.
So now, are there things that you do, like money-wise, zenye, when you make that decision, like, okay, yo kugeria money, no kugeria money. When you think about it, is this concept of rewarding yourself taught from ukiwa mdogo? Yes, all those principles, fine, like building from scratch, yes. When do you know it's enough? How do you know, how do you interact with the concept of, I have built enough, let me enjoy myself?
How do you get there?
Yes, like, do you have like a natural limit to how much fun you can have with money?
But you answered this question
How so?
in our last conversation.
That's for me, but Susan,
Yeah.
from a cultural perspective.
Oh, from a cultural perspective.
Yes.
Are you asking if like there's a point where you can reach and just enjoy?
Yes, you see,
there's a
this
retirement plan.
Retiring from stinginess.
Yes.
Unaona, from like ukiangalia, there is a narrative like a cute landlord can build you a flat.
But akuen like na nini.
Yes.
So is
Na
there
pale
a time
kwa-
to enjoy?
Is there a
No,
time,
that's our weakness. You could find that there are really rich men who don't enjoy their lives, like, and it's their children who end up enjoying their money. So mtu anajinyima. I think that is something that we need to learn. And I think we are learning it gradually. Like when you work hard, you're supposed to just now nini. Because that comes from that mentality of lacking. But you see, long time ago, those who came before us, they did have an age of retiring. The young men would work and go fight in wars and do stuff. Everybody had their own role to play.
Yeah.
But when you reached a certain age, your work was just relaxing. You go for dances. yes, there were elder people dances where they could go and dance, and you just see your sheep grazing. Hiyo kitu ya hiyo scarcity mentality ilikuja when we were taken to the concentration camp. Yeah, ilikujia hapo.
I think by there, I think that answers it.
Yeah, so ndio unaonanga, unajua kuna kwanga na kitu inaitwa generational trauma. So unakutanga like we were having this conversation before. So unakuta like venye kaa hukulelewa ukiwa na kitu ukiipata like hata hija kuhit, kuna wenye hata huwa haihit, the fear of losing it. Yes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's
Thank
the
you.
thing.
Thank you very much.
The thing about I remember the last time when we spoke about that, and I couldn't answer that question, and I told you, Ebu, tell me that question. You told me unafaa kujua what amount you need for you to be comfortable, na ukifikia hiyo amount unajua sasa nimefika hii goal, I now need to retire and just relax. I remember you said something like that. So yeah,
that's a textbook, Nini. That's a textbook, and before someone like me even gets exposed to that, it's very likely that you may live your life differently. So yeah. I'm very curious about okay, sawa basi, beyond the influence of a book, literature or content I've been exposed to, what influences how I relate with money?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
very well explained.
Yes.
Thank you for always being good vibes.
Yeah. I've tried.
Sana. So naonanga vile conversations na wewe ni effortless.
I sometimes feel like we have conversations of like people who are high. Like you get.
Like tumevuta kitu. Unajua confirm vitu za uongo watu niambia ati hiyo ni bangi, hiyo lazima ikuwe bangi. Unajua that's the kind of compliments you get.
Because like even like when we were starting our conversation today, when we were talking about like kingship and everything, kuna place ilifika, we just ilienda too deep, ikaenda. And then I was like, wow, at this point, sasa ni kama ilienda tu in the abyss alafu saa ikarudi. It's like how when people are high, they have those conversations. So yeah.
But unajua, I'm a very big fan of philosophical questions.
Yeah.
I have
and it's good to debate.
I have those. I have a lot of those. Son, I'm a curious person.
Extreme.
I live my life looking for answers.
Me too. I like thinking, and whenever people go through this side, I try to look at this side. Yeah.
Whenever people go this side?
Yeah, I go this side. Yes. Because I always wonder, why is it? Because especially in today's world, whereby unakuta like, kuna watu like wana set agendas, wanasema endeni hii side, so why can't we go here? So nani ataachwa hii side? And that even gives you very many opportunities, because when everybody goes one side, na we uachwe hii side moja, you'll be able to show people a different side of things.
But you understand that your ancestors walikuwa wana discourage watu from looking the same side.
Yes, and that's not where the laws come. But I don't think they would.
No,
I don't think they did. Kwa doggy style.
Yes.
Like I did that video and I was really abused. I was told everything, everyone.
No, for real?
For reals.
They came after you?
Yeah, but you see, the thing was, when I was doing that video, and I even said, I was trying to show them the way that you think that the way that your ancestors were demonized, and you were told, oh, they were barbaric, they were this. Ni watu hata wangefanya doggy style. We umeipiga hata walikuwa wanaambiwa utakufa ukifanya hiyo.
No, but ancestors pia walikuwa na nini zao. FGM is frowned upon.
Yes. Today. Now, like, okay, let's talk about FGM, right? Because every single time I've always found, especially kwa watu religious, they always bring that up. You have to look at this, and I'm not saying FGM is good, but when it came to my culture, the women hawakuwa wanafosiwa kuifanya. It is just that they came into it and they were like, okay, tumekuta hiki tu ikifanywa, so tutaendelea nayo. After the pink man came, akasema hapana, and the first pink man who came to see, who was allowed to see what was happening, was like, because it's usually the clitoris. Walikuanga wanakata nini, wanaivuta, and then they remove the outer part of the clitoris, the outer layer of the clitoris. So that pink man said, That's just what happens. This is stupid. And he said, this needs to stop. So when that stopped, the Kikuyus were so angry, they created a whole song speaking of how angered they were by that whole situation. After that, it stopped. The Kikuyu stopped. So that shows that they could be able to think different and change. Because that was a huge thing. And it was not replaced with anything, by the way. Here, FGM, they stopped FGM and nothing came from, nothing was replaced with that. Juu hata ingekuwa ati, okay, so tumeacha FGM, what are you going to show that these women now have become, that these girls now have become womanhood? Is there something that we can be doing just to show wamekuwa wamama?
No, two things you say.
Yeah.
Number one, conversation of where they took it after cutting it is a story for another day.
Yes.
But my question is, you say ati they were not forced.
Yeah.
I believe in my assessment, and this is Kienyeji,
Yeah.
It's a platform for open minds.
Yes.
Women were manipulated into it.
And that is fine, because even when you accept when you allow yourself to be manipulated, you have allowed it.
Yes, and
Okay,
I think women were manipulated into it because I think it's one way, and probably it was a man's idea to control women. Like labda someone, I believe, like, I like creating scenarios. I believe someone thought like aka kakitu ndio, aka ndio shida, aka ndio kanafanya, probably promiscuity kwa somehow, because ilikuwa kucontrol. To some extent, there is kuna teacher sijui women or not.
From what I was told, and from what I was told by my great grandmother, because they had gone through it. The clitoris was exposing the nerve. Si ati wanakata clitoris.
Tumia cut out. Sema cut out.
What?
Cut out. Say cut out.
Oh, the cut out, or juu ya YouTube. The cut out was exposing the nerves. And then when you expose those nerves, it was, for some reason they were saying that it was heightening the sexuality of a woman. So ana feel poa, nini
zimeshika.
Yes. So that's what, circumcision ya Mkikuyu ilikuwa ya ku-expose nerves za cut out. So that's what I was told by my great grandmother.
Ati ku-expose?
Yes, exposing nerves. Si haikuwa ati kukata yote.
Sasa ndio iweze kabisa.
Yes. That was what it was. So, and that's why even when that pink man came and saw it, he was like, what is this? So ikaondolewa.
Ile vitu Mungu amejionea mahali.
Yes, that's what I saw. Now, but waliacha. And that is that when I started thinking about my ancestors, na sitetei FGM, najua kuna mtu hataelewa, but sitetei. I'm just telling you venye mimi niliambiwa.
Yes.
But when I realized that these guys were able to stop such a huge culture, then it means that these guys were able to think about it and be like, okay, hii tunaweza ondoa.
Okay.
You get. Now, today, like every single time when somebody comes into my comments and said, oh, you guys used to allow FGM, I ask them, number one, first of all, right now, you're finding that there are people who are having gender reassignment surgeries. Wanakatwa nyonyo, wanakatwa nini, but there you are, you won't say anything about it.
Because of who's doing it.
Because of who's doing it.
Bonga points za kulima the pink man tena.
Yes. You get. Okay. So every single time when I do what I do just to challenge the mindset. Yes. And I could be wrong. Me, I'm not always right. In fact, people always tell me, oh, you think you're always right. Oh, you think you know everything. I don't know everything. I just have a different way of seeing things. And I try my best to just think differently. That's the best thing we can do, to just help ourselves as Africans. Okay. You get. Yeah, so that's the whole thing about FGM. Najua musishinde hapa mukiniambia ati, oh, but you used to do FGM. Mi hata mi sijakatwa. Like
unajua
kuna ingine.
As in, you're so bold. As in, umambia tu watu.
Mi nasemanga chenye hicho.
Kona cut out. Nini? Thank you. As a big fan of open-minded people, I'll continue being a fan of your content.
Yeah.
I don't know how the TikTok algorithm works. Most of the time nikiingia, I've actually done it kwa show hapa kwa set. Nikifungua TikTok, the first thing that comes ni video yako.
For reals.
So challenge watu, keep challenging people.
Guy,
waende
for
wasome.
reals.
Niliwaifanya. But for the longest time that imekuwa happen hivyo.
You don't get bored sometimes. Hiki kisichana sasa ni hivyo.
Hapana. I like napenda kupiga story na wewe and I don't know.
For reals, Dr.
But beyond
Kingori,
that I also love inaitwaje unafunguanga akili yangu tu. Not that I have to agree with what you say.
Yeah, you don't have to agree.
When you challenge me, I have to go look for like supporting evidence and supporting documents. It's interesting to learn as much as possible.
Yes, it's true.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have to learn.